Well, hello again. So I'm flat on my back here doing a little checking under Pearl, obviously. And it involves seeing if I have enough space to put things like the black and gray tanks and the freshwater tanks underneath her on the outside. Because originally they were on the inside. So I'm going to show you kind of what I found, and also the way things used to be too. Stick around. We're going to get tanked today, after a fashion, here on the Empty and Me. So, here we are, under Pearl's left side. I am right under the area where the bathroom was installed originally. And the idea here is, as I just said, to see if I've got, or what kind of room I have underneath her for the set of tanks that you need in an RV. Pearl originally had her freshwater tank, her gray tank, and her black tank all on the inside. And there's something to be said for that, because being inside, that means they are in a little more of a controlled environment. You don't have to worry as much about freezing and wear and tear from the road as you do whenever they are underneath. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. But it does take up a lot of space. And there are some other issues too. I'm going to show you those tanks here in a few minutes and talk about the issues that I personally have with them. But while I'm under here, I want to take a few measurements and just see, what kind of space I'm dealing with, and how I can utilize it. First of all, let me show you the space that I'm dealing with. Just to help you get your bearings here. Here's the edge of Pearl on the outside, okay? And here's the main support beam, one of two that are on the chassis. So this area right here is immediately below the bathroom, hence all the holes in the floor. The black tank came through right here, this large hole. The tank was actually on the inside, underneath the toilet, but it was this is where the whole assembly came through. This was the spot for the shower drain, which I got plenty to say about that. And these other holes, well, let's see, one of them was for the drain, I guess, coming from the gray tank. And the other one I'm not really sure about, but it drains something. So the gray tank, anyway, was right in this area here. Now, the kitchen itself was down next, so here above here's the rear tires right here. Here above the fender well is where the kitchen was and the sink, so it drained into the gray tank as well. So this is what I'm looking at from underneath. What I want to do now is take some measurements. Get an idea of what this space right here encompasses. I've got a bulkhead here and one on this end. Between them, I have 42 inches of space. 42 inches front to back. That's not bad. That's not bad. This mounting bar here gives me a little bit of a limit. So if I go straight up from that, that's like 9.5 inches down. So you figure a 9-inch drop to go over this bar. Otherwise, I could come a little bit lower, but I don't necessarily want to because that would be getting dangerous. So let's say to be safe, maybe 8 to 9 inches down, okay? And width-wise, I'm dealing with something more like 21 inches. I'm eating grass under here. So basically what I'm wondering is, will I be able to find tanks that will fit into that space, and what capacity will they be? I'm not even sure what kind of capacities to look for. So I'll say right now, if any of you have ideas or comments, please let me know. Let me know what your experience is. If you own an RV of any kind, whether it's a motorhome or just a camping RV, fifth wheel, a little bitty portable travel trailer, anything like that. If it's got tanks on it, I'd like to know what you have, what your capacities are, and what your experience is with them. Are they big enough? Well, would you change it if you could? So that kind of thing. I would really like to get feedback from you on this. As for a freshwater tank, right now, I'm thinking about the other side. So let's go over there and see what it looks like. And in response to that question, the answer would be not much different. There are no holes in the floor over here, but there's about the same amount of room. So I'm thinking there should be plenty of room to put a freshwater tank in this area. I'll show you the freshwater tank that she came with, and as a matter of fact, I'll show you all the tanks. As I said, Pearl's tanks were all on the inside, and with the exception of the freshwater tank, to me they seemed a bit on the small side. Let me show you. This is Pearl's gray tank. Now, as I said, this was actually situated underneath the vanity in the bathroom. So there was a lavatory above it. It connected here. This went over through the wall and connected underneath the kitchen sink. All right, and there's a hole here in the top where actually a vent pipe was mounted and sealed in. And here on the bottom is the drain that went through the floor. I don't know what capacity this tank is, but it ain't much. I mean, look at it. I think you should have a gray tank at least as big as your freshwater tank, which in Pearl's case is right here. It does not have a capacity on it, but I would guess maybe 20. I'm not real good at estimating liquid figures. We could actually take the measurements of this thing, do a little computing, and figure out the cubic footage and tell you how much. But anyway, freshwater tank. And here again, this one was installed sitting sideways. It was underneath one of the benches in the dinette. So, there you have it. Freshwater, gray water. It's just, there's a little bit of a discrepancy there, you know? Just a wee bit. So now you're wondering about the blackwater tank. It was installed immediately underneath the toilet. All kind of one-piece assembly sort of thing. I don't know if I can dig it out or not. Let's try. So, here is the shower pan, basically, the floor of the bathroom. You had a shower area right here, toilet set right here. Underneath that is the black tank right here. Okay, so it's just sitting immediately underneath the toilet. And here again, it's measured I don't know, 2 feet by 18 inches by maybe 6 inches deep. Not very big. So, there again, maybe a black tank needs to be bigger. I mentioned a little issue with the shower that puzzles me to this day. As you can see, the shower had a drain in the bottom of it. Okay. Let's talk about that drain for just a minute. That drain was at floor level. The bottom of that shower pan set right on the floor of Pearl. The bottom of the black tank, same level, right on the floor, so that the drain on the black tank went straight through the bottom into the dumping system. All right. So you had a drain coming out of the shower, going down, across, and back up, not into the tank, but actually into the drain of the black tank. It connected to that. Now, my point here is, I don't see any possible way the shower would have or could have, by the laws of physics and fluid dynamics in this universe, drained into this tank. It's simply not possible. What it would do is, if you were docked and you had your sewer system hooked up, the shower would drain. You could leave the valve open for the gray tank, as you normally would if you were at a campsite or something, so that your gray water goes straight through and into the sewer. The shower would work fine then. But if you were camping somewhere out in the boonies, that's why they call it boondocking, then there's no way that shower would have drained unless you opened up the gate and let the shower and the gray tank all just drain out onto the ground or into the nearby creek bed or wherever. And that ain't cool. You don't do that when you're camping out in the wilderness. That's a problem for me, because one of these days when I get out in Pearl, part of my whole goal is to be able to just go anywhere and stop and camp. And that includes taking a shower. So I got to have some place for my shower water to go. It's one of the main reasons I'm looking at putting the gray tank underneath, so that not only will it be not taking up space inside the cabin, but it also will give a place for my shower to drain into. Let me know what you think, what your experience is. You have RVs with showers, I'm sure, and I would imagine they work. Have you ever seen a setup like this, where the shower would not drain into the gray tank at all? I'd be interested in hearing from you. Please get in touch with me, leave a comment below. Let me know what your experience is, because all that's going to be factored in to determining what kind of tanks I put back on Pearl, and more importantly, where they're going to go. Let me hear from you. Well, it's another fairly windy day, but despite that, nothing new has fallen from Grandfather Oak, and that huge limb that threw itself into the ground like a javelin is still exactly where it landed. Shows no signs of falling over or going anywhere. I'm just glad I wasn't in its way when it came down. So, we're back here in front of Pearl, dealing with our old familiar problem, hooking a fuel line up. I had dug out the old piece of line here just to see how much would be involved in fitting it back in place. And as you probably just saw, it might be possible, but it ain't gonna be easy, not without taking the alternator out. And I'm still afraid I'd have to make some adjustments to this dipstick tube that I had to install too. The reason I'm doing this is, in my continued online searching, I ran across a company that had a fuel line like this, a prefabricated steel fuel line for a 1977 Dodge B200 318 engine. Okay, this is a Sportsman. It's a 300, not a 200. But when it comes to the fuel lines, that's probably not making much difference. What does make a difference is the engine style. The 318 and the 360 are very, very similar. Well, aside from the fact that the 360 is a little bit bigger. But styling-wise, they are very similar. In fact, just on a glance from the outside, it's hard to tell them apart. There's a few clues that you learn to look for, like the exhaust manifolds and the position of a few other things on there that can be a dead giveaway. The only reason I was considering that fuel line was because I do have the BBD carburetor that came on a 318 here installed on Pearl's 360, and I'm thinking, well, you know, if it would fit, if it would make the stretch from the fuel pump to the carburetor, then I should probably go with that and give it a shot. So I dug this out, and that's the reason I was sitting here seeing how much trouble it'd be to fit it in. Okay, it's going to be a lot of trouble. Now the second thing is, as you can see in the comparison, there's a little bit of difference in this fuel line and the one that I found online. Now this fuel line is incomplete. It's been cut off. There's actually another 6 to possibly 8 inches of fuel line that was originally on this. And that's not on that 318 fuel line. It's not that long. I'm telling you all that to simply tell you that I have determined, after my extensive research, plus looking at a few readers' forums, that 318 fuel line will not work. It's not going to work for me. So I thought I was really onto something, but that ship has sank, as it seems to be. And despite my vigilant searches, no one seems to manufacture an actual 5/16 inch steel fuel line to run from the fuel pump to the carburetor on the 70 series Dodge 360 engine. If it's out there, I can't find one. I could go to a junkyard and try to track one down and probably be successful, but there again, I'd have to go through the trouble of taking it off, and then I'd go through the trouble of putting it back on. So here's the plan, and here's what I've actually done. I have ordered a couple of these in the right size. Remember this? I haven't sent it back yet for credit, but this is the wrong size. I got something too big for my fittings. This is 3/8 inch hose and 3/8 inch fittings, but I need 5/16. And the hose, the fittings, and everything else. But I did find these in the proper size, so I got 2 of them. One of them will go on the fuel pump. The other one will go on the back of the carburetor. And in between them, I also ordered 3 feet of 5/16 inch rubber treated vinyl gas line. It's very heat resistant. It's a modern material. It's supposed to be, I think, heat resistant up to over 400 degrees, and I'm going to be sure it stays away from any surface contact. Because getting 3 feet, I'll have plenty of excess. I can cut it to the exact length I need, and it will fit over these 2 fittings with the hose clamps. Can seal that down, and that will give me my gas line from the fuel pump to the carburetor finally here on Pearl. And yes, I'm crossing my fingers, and you can't see them, but my toes are crossed too as I say that. So maybe another week or so and all these fittings will be in. We'll see about installing that fuel line, and if it seems to work, then next step is going to be drop the tank, the gas tank, because I want to clean it out completely, and put it back in position. Probably, well, if we don't replace the fuel line from the tank to the pump here, we'll at least flush it out. Might just do with a good flushing, because it is a rigid line. It's not rubber, it is a steel line, so theoretically it could still be in very good condition. We'll just have to check it out and see. Once we do all that, then we're going to see if we can put a little gas in Pearl and get this old motor running. That's my goal, to have the motor running for the summer. I'm not necessarily going to have her out driving up and down the road, but if I can get the engine started and get it to where it is in running condition, that will be a real big step. So, once again, to summarize, 2 of these coming, the correct size, hose to connect them, and with that, we should, with the capital SH, be able to connect the fuel pump to the carburetor. Stay tuned and find out. So that's going to be it for today here on the MT and Me. I hope you've enjoyed our little projection in what the fuel pump plans are. I feel good about it. I feel like we actually have made some real progress toward getting something that will work. Now, of course, I felt the same way when I initially ordered this part right here, and it doesn't fit. But now I know more than I did, and so I think we've got a good chance of being successful. We'll find out maybe next week. So there's that to look forward to, and of course the other things I was talking about, trying to evaluate what to do about freshwater, gray water, and black tanks. Let me know what you think about fitting them under Pearl on the outside. As I pointed out originally, everything was inside, but there were some issues. Very small black tank, very small gray tank for that matter, and as I think I explained to you, I can't figure out how in the world that shower would have ever emptied into that gray tank. It just would not have worked. So, and I would really like to be able to use a shower while being off-grid one of these days. So, there's all that. Let me know your opinions, your experience, if you have an RV or have worked with them before. Let me know what you think about it. And if you got any kind of tips or tricks, please pass them along, okay? As always, thank you so much for watching. If you look down below, you'll find the mtandme.com, a link to our website. There's also a chance to buy me a coffee. And, of course, check out all the other videos here on YouTube. And if you don't mind, give me those thumbs ups. And by all means, subscribe if you haven't already. I love you, Nomies. Thanks again. You take care. I'm Russ. We'll talk later.